Let's go then to Jerusalem. We can speak to the Israeli government spokesman, Avi Hyman. Mr. Hyman, grateful for your time this evening. Thank you for coming on the programme. What are humanitarian islands?
Christian, thank you so much for having me on. The idea is not necessarily new in so much as from the beginning of the war, what we've done is to get civilians out of harm's way to go after Hamas. Obviously, our fight is with Hamas, not with the people of Gaza. So we did that in the north of Gaza. We did it in the center of Gaza. And now we have a scenario by which many of those people have moved down into the Rafah area. And we now have to get them out of harm's way because Hamas is using them as human shields, deeply embedded within them, hiding amongst them. We need to take care of it because, as you know, Rafah is where the last 4 Hamas battalions are residing. We've taken out 18 out of 24. We're fighting 2 in central Gaza still. And there's the last 4 in Rafah. If we don't take Rafah, Hamas will take Gaza back and they'll perpetrate October 7th again and again and again. That's not my words, that's theirs. OK, that's the military basis for it. But how do you move 1.4 million people onto a patch of land that has no infrastructure, a scarcity of food and water, no field hospitals, no connection to the aid agencies, and reassure people that you're putting the lives and the humanity of the Palestinians first? Well, again, we have already evacuated large amounts of people to get them out of harm's way in a way that no other army in modern warfare has done. Of course, no other army has faced a situation by which a terrorist organization has embedded itself deep within the civilian population, under hospitals, under mosques, under UN facilities, in a way that Hamas has. So we have to fight them, you know. But they're starving as it is. They're starving as it is. Well, I'm not convinced of that. I've definitely. Well, I had a primary care doctor on the programme last night who says she's examined children and they had muscle wastage and they were starving. Okay. We've got the Americans who are they're bringing over kit to build a floating pier because they can't trust the Israeli government to put enough food into Gaza. Well, I reject the notion that they can't rely on the Israelis. In fact, the Israelis. Well, why are they doing it then? Well, I can explain to you if you would allow me just to answer the question. The reason that they're bringing it in through the sea is because Hamas keeps stealing the aid. We've brought in over 16,000 trucks. We bring tons and tons of aid. Hamas keeps stealing it. I'll tell you who's not hungry. Hamas fighters aren't hungry. No, I dare say you're right. But there are 1,000 trucks outside the gate at Rafah that the doctors are passing. You could flood the zone with food aid. It could be checked. It could be sent in more rapidly than it is. That's not me speaking. That's David Cameron. That's the American president and Joseph Borrell. Listen to what Joseph Borrell said just yesterday.
But this is a humanitarian crisis which is not a natural disaster. It's not a flood. It's not a earthquake. It's a man-made. And starvation is being used as a war arm. And when we condemn this happening in Ukraine, we have to use the same words for what's happening in Gaza.
These are your friends, these are your allies, Mr. Hyman. And this is what Chuck Schumer is saying, that these are people who are talking of Israel. And this is why he is concerned that Israel is following a policy that will make it a pariah state. Well, I reject that entirely. I'm not going to wade into American politics. What I can tell you is that the Prime Minister and his coalition were elected by a wide majority. I can tell you that since October 7th, when Hamas came through our borders, beheading, raping young girls in front of their parents, killing parents in front of their children, using rape as a weapon. After that happened, the Israeli people have never been more united behind our war aims to destroy Hamas, to bring home the hostages, and to ensure that Gaza never becomes a threat to Israel. Now, we're doing that with giving our utmost to get aid through in a way that no other military or government has done in the past. That aid is getting through to Gaza. The issue is not getting through to Gaza, it's getting it around Gaza. Now, there might be pockets where that is a challenge, and we're working on that day by day with humanitarian organizations that aren't affiliated and aren't fronts for Hamas, and also the private sector in Gaza. We will do our utmost to get aid to the people that desperately need it, not to Hamas.
and to take out Hamas for the sake of the people of Gaza and for the sake of the people of Israel.
Okay.
And
I want to put another question to you. I am a bit pressed for time. I'm not trying to be rude. You say you put the lives of Palestinians, of innocent life, first. I want to play you a piece to camera that Orla Gurin did yesterday in East Jerusalem, on the spot where a 12-year-old boy was shot dead for holding a firework. Just watch this.
Standing here, it's hard to imagine how Rami, a 12-year-old boy with a firework in his hand, could have been any kind of threat to the border police, who were down the road beyond that high wall with the fence at the top, heavily armed and well protected.
The Israeli security minister said the police officer who was behind that fence on top of that wall was a hero for shooting dead a 12-year-old child. Was he a hero?
My understanding is that you're talking about a violent riot by which Molotov cocktails, by which fireworks, rockets were being fired towards our officers. And they obviously, in accordance with the rules of engagement, felt like their lives were threatened. I'm not sure specifically what happened to that boy, but I can tell you this isn't child's play.
But there's a watchtower there, and these are highly trained officers. Can they not differentiate between what you would class as a terrorist and a 12-year-old boy holding a firework?
Well,
and I would just question whether, if they can't, whether they are indeed a hero.
You weren't there. I wasn't there, you weren't there, but I trust that if there was an issue here, the police will investigate it, just like any other police force would anywhere in the world. Of course, there aren't that many that have to deal with these types of scenarios that often. But in Israel, sadly, we've got Hamas inciting Muslims in Israel, across Israel, to try and start some kind of holy war. This war isn't about religion. It's not about history. It's about our very existence. We have a genocidal terror organization, Hamas, that wants to kill all Jews in Israel and all Jews around the world. That includes England, everywhere. They want to kill all Jews, and we need to stop. I
don't dispute what you say about Hamas. I'm more interested in civilian life. I want to ask you about the hostage Itai Regev, who came on to speak to the BBC yesterday. Appalling, truly appalling, what he and his sister Maya have been through. But what frustrates the families of the hostages is that they're not being put first. I think we should do anything, he said, we can possibly do to get them out of there, whatever the cost. It is people's lives. Why are they not the priority?
The hostages are living in hell. Their families have been living in hell for 160 days. This is a crime against humanity, and I thank you for bringing it up. What I can tell you is that the Prime Minister met with the families today. I can tell you that a friend of mine, Rabbi Doron Peretz's son, Daniel, has been held. We know he was injured on October 7th, and we know nothing else. Now, in the negotiations, we've said through the mediators, we would like to see information. Who do you have that's alive? What is their medical condition? We've asked for Red Cross visits, but no, Hamas is a brutal terror organization, and we are doing our utmost to fight them and to work the diplomatic channels to bring home the hostages as soon as humanly possible.
Just one final question. Just one final question. Before this assault on Rafah, will you be calling up the Reserve Corps, and will you provide the battle plans to your closest ally, the United States?
Those are operational questions for the IDF that I doubt will be putting out to the media before. But what I can tell you is that we have to go after Hamas in Rafah to finish the job, to ensure peace and security for the children of Gaza and the children of Israel. This is a fight for our very survival.
Mr. Hyman, grateful for your time this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christian.